out, I'm talking about the other projects. It's called XAML or XML based design framework. This is really cool. We're gonna talk about this concept or these markup languages, by the way, today. Okay, let's see on the Wikipedia what's going on. It it is application markup languages or X application markup languages, or is other words. In other words, it means extensible application markup languages. It is declarative XML-based languages developed by Microsoft for initializing a structure, value, and object. It is available under the Microsoft Open AI. XAML is used extensively in the Windows Presentation Foundation or WPF, Silverlight Workflow Foundation or WF, Windows UI Library or WinUI, Universal Windows Platform or UWP, .NET Multi-Platform Apple App UI or .NET MAUL. In WP and UWP, XAML is user interface markup languages to define UI elements, data binding, and events. In WP, however, XAML defines the workflows. Okay, what is the workflows, by the way? The one concept we have to define about in computer science, declarative programming, the programming paradigm, the style of the building, the structure and elements of the computer programs that express the logic of computational without describing in control flow, and also developed by Microsoft. In other words, Microsoft in Open SP is a promise by Microsoft, published in September 2006. WP is a free and open source graphics subsystem originally developed by Microsoft, and other concept we have to know about that. But is most important, the XAML is basic on C# and .NET, right? Or VB.NET. That's user interface. The user interface working on it for Xamarin or Visual Studio. There are different tools we can working on it for Xamarin. This is a basic the base the code, and we are viewing on the code right here, right? And you can see what is that? The basically, as you can see, this is the markup languages. The basically, what is the markup language? The markup language is basically opening and close tags, right? The opening and close tag is the same thing, the canvas, same as HTML or XML or whatever. And this is basically the structure is a basic based on the key value or children, whatever, the children and the parents and children value, right? In a structure, the basic on this one. For instance, the canvas XML, this is the property for this tag, including this URL, that's create the schema, and also create this XAML for this. The properties is defined for the XAML. I mean, there's XAML, and this is a child tags text block. Hello world. That's a content, right? We can change it for whatever we are. For instance, we are software company, right? Or you can type anything. Right, that's the my bad, is my typo, but don't worry about it. And you can custom, you can add the other for instance tag, I mean the text block, but not the child or parents. For instance, other one, time, and then closing, right? The same thing we can close on, the same as XML, you know, XML structure, and we can add the content right here. For instance, the other one, the numerical or whatever. Okay, and let's see what else. Or other one, we can talk about this one, text block, that's the same thing, or Silverlight. This is the basic, most important, same thing in HTML, but looks like XAML, it looks like HTML. We know that, but the most important, whenever to define the code right here, and get back to the UI, for instance, this one, the variable, I mean, this is a variable and is I mean, this is a variable, this is a tag, and this is a variables. For instance, XML text input, and text block binding elements name text input path text, right? Text input path text, this is a binding, is including everything. Text block, text binding elements name, text block, and input text. For instance, everything, right? And this is a variable, and we can define or we can customize any variable, and then you know, we can put it for any element and properties, same as the HTML. We can work on the element and properties. Okay, what else we have to know? And differentiate between version of the XAML based on for Silverlight and whatever's, and this is the similar one, UXUL, XPS, Zoom, FEM, EMML, and whatever's. This is a very important PDF. We can open it and download it from the Wikipedia. This is the document about for the XAML. For instance, about object mapping. The object mapping is the most important concepts about that. For instance, what is that? Let me open up the bigger one. You can see that. And what is that? Any content, for instance, operator specification, and also the specification about the for XAML and .NET whatever's. Languages, markup languages, overview, XAML schema, information set, XAML information set, XML, XAML vocabularies, and whatever's. And we can put for any materials, including the search one, right? You can searching everything, anything. And the structure of information in the XAML. For instance, my elements, member my element print text 24, member my element 24. This is the same thing as we discussed about for the before, you know, parents and children, parents and children, parents and children's, and whatever's, right? This one is this one basic information set type system, text string, and XAML name, and code LU, code LI, and whatever's. This is the most concept, and we have to know about for any things about the structures. For instance, we can define for everything, right? Define everything's. So what else we have to know? For instance, we have to discuss it about any elements, for instance, properties for any elements. For instance, we have to discuss about for the grid, and we define the grid, and any grid has different parameters. We're going to focus on our parameters and everything else, right? Convert the members, invoke the members, the number of the members, and what else, right? Okay, the names must be unique with the systems, and this one there are a lot of sources. Okay, let's get back to the code, and in the code, for instance, this is a text binding. The text binding, same as the Blazor and Razor. We already discussed for .NET syntax or .NET UI element. This is based on the curly braces. Inside of the curly braces, we can bind in the elements name based on for mapping from the SQL or NoSQL. Inside of the element name, we have to define the element name, and then the path, for instance, the URL or any text included, right? So, and this is a text block. After they define the text box in the system, for instance, we're gonna searching for any element inside of the UI. Okay, we have to define the text box inside of including the elements. The elements, that's the name of the text box. It's a TXT input, and define the what kind of input. For instance, a JSON or XML. I mean the software. I mean the SQL or whatever's. And after they define the TXT input, we have to define the TXT block, including the binding mapping from the TXT input. TXT input inside of element name, and then we have to define the path name to loading any object inside of the elements, right? Okay, and this is basically the XAML for the working on the defined and elements. We have to by the way, we have to define inside of a Visual Studio. We have, for instance, if you have the Visual Studio, you can open the Visual Studio and hold on 1 second. Let me show the Visual Studio right here, and let me try that. I hope you can see the Visual Studio. Yes, here you go. This is a Visual Studio. Let me close that one. Okay, here you go. This is a Visual Studio. For instance, you can download the free version of the Visual Studio, and then open up the Visual Studio Code or whatever. This is the basic Visual Studio Code. And then working on the toolbox, for instance, the tools. And let me try that. The tools. No, not here, because this is a base. This is the Visual Studio Code. But in Visual Studio Production, you can view the toolbox. And the view, you can view the toolbox. Yes, here you go. This is a toolbox. But the toolbox, you can pin it and then put in on for the system whenever it's to use for the XAML or XML or whatever. This is that's a trick, but it's not loading right now. Sorry, this is it's not loading because you have to define that. Okay, and after that, on the properties, you can view for any elements, for instance, dependency or any frameworks. After the build of the frameworks, for instance, after the downloading on the project managers, you can define that any elements and library right here. For the Visual Studio, you can see that. And there are a lot of things, but right now just focus on the XAML and XAML structure based on XML. This is most important to define that. And then you can viewing by the extension, for instance, Dev Express, other platforms, or you can download it. You can download it for by editing anything, right? For in the bookmarks, multiple cats, or intelligence sort between them. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you to watching for this these programs today, and hopefully to get back as soon as possible. You can get the practice for any projects, and then keep in touch. You have to subscribe these programs, Visual Studio, Fire Studio, and then keep in touch on later. Okay.